Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Thanks for joining us today on Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team. I'm Jen Bentley, Northeast Iowa Dairy Field Specialist, and today I'm here with my colleague Larry Tranel, Northeast and Southeast Dairy Field Specialist. And so, Larry, I want to welcome you back to the podcast here.
Appreciate that. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about our farm couple getaway. And, Larry, you've been doing this for a number of years in Iowa and previously in Wisconsin when you were working in extension there. So why don't you just give us a little bit of background about your work with the farm couple getaway?
Yeah, we started some of these back in Iowa County, Wisconsin, back in the late 1990s, just as a lot of farm stress was kind of hitting the area. And we kind of worked with Dr. Roger Williams, who actually spearheaded the project. So I was just kind of helping him out as he came into my county to do one of these. And it was just a program that just really kind of hit me pretty hard the first couple of times, just the impact. We worked pretty hard trying to assist dairy producers and other farmers to work through decision-making aids and things like that. And to me, it was just kind of a program where you bring these couples together and they kind of help each other out as well. So it's not just extension trying to help the couples, but there's a lot of other resources that are sitting around the table in the mindsets of these other couples as well. And so it was just a program that I just kind of felt really had some very heavy impact, probably as impactful as any of the programs that I think I've been involved with over the years. Just what it did for not just the farm, but probably especially for the family, because the spouses were involved. And a lot of times it's, goal setting and things like that for, they might think about what they want to, better manage, whether it be their parenting skills or their finances or whatever, just a whole host of issues that they would talk about. So it's just kind of a very rewarding program to be working with.
Yeah, and I know the last couple of years we've been alternating it between the Decorah site and the Dubuque site. So this year it's going to be back in Dubuque in February. And we actually have a previous past participant joining us on the podcast here today. So we wanted her to share her experiences when she attended the Dubuque site there. I believe it was 2 years ago. So we have Madi Skubal on here from Southeast Iowa, dairy producer there. So thanks for joining our podcast, Madi.
Yeah, of course.
I'm glad it worked out for you to hop on. I know you're a busy mom and dairy producer yourself, but we appreciate you being here and being able to share your experiences about the farm couple getaway. So why don't you first introduce yourself and a little bit about your operation?
Yep. So I'm Madi Skubal, 30, and my husband and I have 3 girls. I farm part-time now with my dad. We have a dairy in Washington County. We milk about 150 Holsteins. And then my husband farms with his dad, also in Washington County, but we're on opposite ends of the county. So he does the drive, just so we're closer to the dairy farm. It's a little bit different hours, but they do mainly row crop and cow calf and feeder cows. And then they do some hogs as well. They finish out hogs for a producer here in the county. So we're just kind of between both farms helping out both areas. He does a lot with my dad too, especially when we're in the field. So we stay busy pretty much everywhere with kids and cows.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got a lot of issues going on just with the farm and trying to keep all that together. But what's one thing that really helped you decide to come to the farm couple getaway in the first place?
So actually, my parents went on it. I don't know how many years ago, but dad always has worked with you, Larry, and he really enjoys being with you and learning from you. And so he said it was a really good opportunity for us to go, because at the time we didn't know what we were going to do with 2 farms, because we knew we couldn't run both, with one being a dairy and wanting to have kids. So dad said this would be a good place for us to talk with other producers, not just dairy, but any other producer, and then also get input from you and the other leaders of the getaway.
So what would you say would be some of the things that you learned from attending, and now that it's been a year or 2 since you've attended, and anything you put into place or into practice with it, or what are some of the big takeaways you had from it?
So we were kind of surprised that we were the youngest couple there, which after we got into it, it turned out to be the best thing for us to be the youngest couple, because we had so many other people there telling us their experiences. So just hearing from them, my husband is not, neither of us are huge communicators. I think that's just living on farms. So hearing all the other couples say how much communication helped them, like learning to just sit down at night and talk things over, don't just do what you want. You need to have the other's input. And so we really done that a lot in the last 2 years, discussed things because, we had a lot of big decisions that we needed to make in the last 2 years with having kids and deciding how to move forward with our farms. And so we sat down with our parents and talked. We sat down with his grandparents as well because they're still on the farm. And so that was something that my family, we would sit down and talk a lot, but not what my husband's family was used to. And so we kind of brought that home and said, we really need to talk this through with everybody involved on the farm because everybody right now still has an input. So we need to discuss things and get a plan set for the next generation.
And so you've got so many things going on. So most couples, they have one farm that they're dealing with. So you guys actually have two different farms you're doing with the two different families that you're farming with. And so you've got just a lot going on. But what would you say to some other young producers that just think they're too busy to come to a farm couple getaway or they're too busy to do this? I think you're the epitome of being too busy and you still came.
Well, I mean, we have awesome families, so they helped us with the taking care of our kids, but it's not like you're going away for a week. It was just the one night and it was close for us. It's only a couple hours. And my husband is like that. He doesn't like to get away. And I said, it's just one night. I think this will be really good for us. If anything, you can relax. You can, if you don't want to have to talk, that's fine. Just sleep in or something, have a good night away from the farm. But for us to just learn that we can step away from the farm. There are people who can do chores for 2 days. It'll be okay. It was nice to just have us and have a meal without having to feed another kid. We could actually sit and eat ourselves and talk, and then do all the different things that they get away with the the stuff that you guys had us sit down and do for papers and things.
So what did you think about the just some of the activities that we had? So the one activity where you have kind of every couple kind of figures out what an issue that they want to work on, and just the ability to do that, have the time to do that, and then be able to bring that back, and then they got other couples help kind of try to help you solve the issue. What'd you think about that? And any details from that?
That was probably the best thing for us actually, because we both came with the same issue or question that we wanted to get answered was, should we continue with the dairy or should we just pick one farm, or should we not do the dairy but do a creamery? And so usually what happens is we'll talk about it and that's all we do. We just talk about it. But the paper really got us thinking different questions, like what do we need to actually think about? What do we need to have? What kind of like finances do we need to do all this? And then to come back to the group and get input that wasn't just ours. Because, my mind was like a one track. This is how my dad's always done it. This is how we need to do it. And same with him. He had a one track mind and we just would always come to the same ending and we would never get a conclusion. But with everybody else, getting their input on it. And like I said, there's people there that just weren't dairy farmers. So it was helpful that there were other industries there to give us their take on it. Just to have a different outlook, and that really helped us finally come to our decision last year. So
myself being kind of a personality junkie, so when you take a look at that the sessions that we did on people's personalities, what did you learn from that? Did you pick up anything in your husband's personality and your own personality or other people's personalities that kind of assisted pulling through the communication process later on?
Yeah, Brad and I are, it's hard to put it into words. I mean, like we've been married for quite a few years, and so we kind of knew each other and how we liked to communicate. But when we did the final thing, the figuring out each other's personality, he was a person that liked to just sit by himself, figure something out, and then he'll bring it to me. Is how we figured out how he likes to do things. And I said, well, I hate that. Why can't you just talk to me? And then figured out together. He said, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, but why not? So we would go back and forth. And so that really helped me to figure out, okay, if I just let him alone for a couple hours, he can get his thoughts out and then he can come to me and then we can discuss. Because before I would make him think and I'd sit there and it would just bother him and he could never fully get out what he wanted to. So that showed me, as we move as we move forward that I needed to just give him his time, and then we could get a good discussion about the plans for the farm.
So any pieces of advice that you would give other farm couples about kind
Yeah, I think it's a really good workshop. And we came with everyone came with such different issues that they wanted to resolve. And so, for us, we thought that ours was going to be really complicated and so hard, but it really wasn't compared to all the other ones that people come with, and then getting the input from the other farmers as well. Just there's such a big age range. So like another couple that was there, they were at the retirement stage. So they had a whole life of farming experience to give us as a young couple with kids and farms. So that was really good, to sit down and talk with them at dinner that time. Um and if you don't have a husband that or a wife that likes to communicate like I do, it was still good because you're not around people that so he could actually open up and not feel like he was, going to be judged by the neighbor next door. It was people who had no idea about their farming operation, so he could be open and honest and get good feedback and not be worried about, the discussion that might happen from other people.
Yeah, I think it's amazing just over the course of 25 years of doing these that the mix of the couples, we always has, a couple older generation ones, sometimes middle generation ones, sometimes the younger ones. It's always a great mix. And the mix of the enterprise, yeah, we always try to go about half dairy farmers and half other farmers. And I think everybody just appreciates both the age differences, the levels of experience, because I think a lot of times it's the older ones that really appreciate just the enthusiasm and the attitudes of the younger generation, because it kind of gives them inspiration to kind of keep on going. But I think the younger ones really, really appreciate the experience of the older generations and the things that they've been through, because, research will actually show that after the fact, after you get done with your farming career, that people tend to be very, very satisfied with their choice to farm and just how they tried to work with things. So I appreciate you sharing those things as well. Any real quick thought processes? Why should somebody come to this farm couple getaway from your perspective?
Well, like I said, we came with our issue and we've been working on it for years and years. And since we were dating basically, because we knew we were getting married and we just could never come to an agreement. And then coming to this, it still took us another year after to talk things over and make our final decision. But it really helped us see everything to stand back and see our issue, get different questions to ask to really finally decide what we wanted to do with our farms. And then obviously, getting help from you guys as specialists and seeing exactly how this would play out from every angle. It was really helpful. And now that we've finally decided how to handle both of our farms, we're a lot more relaxed, lot less stressful, and we're enjoying our time as a family more now than just always coming home from the farms every night discussing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of mentioning that. So I think one of my probably one of the biggest reviews I think I've got one time is that about 5 years ago, we had a couple there at the farm couple getaway, and they said, we've been dealing with this issue since 1977. And it wasn't until the fact that you made us actually write this down and force us to talk about it that we actually got something resolved on it. And so I'm thinking that people are dealing with sometimes these issues for 15, 20 years. They just linger and linger. And sometimes it's just a simple fact of trying to get it to write down and taking that time. It might only be an hour or two just to kind of put it on paper and prioritize it versus just run it through your mind for, 15, 20 years and never get something settled. So I appreciate you mentioning that. So I think the other thing, so we do have the farm couple getaway coming in together February 21st and 22nd. It's going to be the Dubuque Midwestern Hotel. And so it comes free of charge to dairy producers and any farmers, but we do want to get about half of the class about dairy producers. And so it's sponsored by Farm Bureau and some of the local county extension offices as well. And so it's just something that, it's an overnight stay. Everything else is pretty much paid for by the sponsorship grants of Iowa State Farm Bureau. And so just encourage people, if they have the opportunity to get a hold of one of us, to get a brochure, to get ourselves registered and kind of go from there. So we do start about 12:30 the first afternoon, and then it goes to about 3:15, depending on the number of couples the second day. So it just is one overnight stay, and hopefully it's designed so that farmers don't have to miss two milkings if need be. So if that's kind of the case there. So appreciate the thought process there, Maddie, and kind of go from there, Jen.
Yeah, thanks for Maddie and Larry both being on and sharing your experiences about the Farm Couple Getaway. I'll be sure to put the flyer and the brochure in the show notes. So if somebody's interested, they can certainly download those, or they can certainly contact one of us as well. But again, thanks, Maddie, for being on. I know you're busy, but it's always great to hear some of these boots on the ground stories and be able to share those out with other producers.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and thank you for doing the getaway. It was really good.
Yeah, just so we know, we get inspired by working with you guys as well. So it's kind of a good team approach.
So again, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to visiting with you on the next Dairy News and Views from ISU. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.